Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode Lucky 13 of the Recce Report. I'm your co-host, Russ, former British Army Warrant Officer.
Yeah, good evening, folks. I'm the other host for this evening's show, former Army Corporal Cliff Purvis.
Thank you for joining us yet again. Obviously, it's such a momentous occasion. We have our coronation special tonight. The King, God bless him. No, I don't think you'll find many staunch pro-monarchists on this show. I think you would class yourself as a Republican, Cliff, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't start off the independence campaign as a Republican, but as I've had my journey, as all people have, we've all made our own journey along the road. I am now most definitely a Republican. I have no problems admitting it either.
We've had this conversation, I think, many times before. I'm not completely against the idea of a monarchy. I quite like the idea of as the armed forces, not swearing allegiance to a politician. Now, whether that's not a big distinction in the UK or not, I don't know. I personally would have a very slimmed down monarchy, as we said before, much like the Netherlands or Sweden or something like that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's actually put me off the monarchy as I've dug into it. This thing about the monarchy, the head of state's already been detached from the political side of things and is there to add continuity and give advice to new politicians, new prime ministers, and that type of thing. And the more you read into it, the more glaring it is that they're actually in, their sticky fingers are in just about everything, especially when it comes to protecting their own source of income. Income tax being optional, I believe, for them. And the Guardian of all newspapers did a quite a good series on the lead up to Saturday there on what exactly the monarchy is worth. And when they approached the palace, Buckingham Palace originally, they were told to ask someone else. You don't have the right to know, on all this type of thing about trying to get decent figures, honest figures from them. So there's just too much the hint of colonialism about them.
Yeah, and I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. It's that aspect of the millions of pounds or billions of pounds that we spend on the pomp and circumstance of just a glorified investiture, wasn't it? And it's quite galling to see when the gold and the pageantry, when there's food banks and people in poverty. And then that stupid thing where they wanted everyone to swear allegiance on the day. You're like, how is that going to go down? Come on.
Now, what I heard about that one was it was one of the hierarchy in the Church of England came up with that one. And I think it was Dimbleby turned around and said King Charles will be greatly mortified. He won't want this. But he never came out and said he didn't want it. Yeah. He could have quashed that one quite, quick press release, job done. And that may have got more people on side with him. But I think that actually turned an awful lot of people off. Did you watch any of it?
No. And I'm going to be fair. It's not just the coronation that I avoided. I tend to these days not watch things like the Cenotaph and Remembrance Day and stuff like that. It just I don't know. Just for me, it just doesn't appeal. In that, don't get me wrong. I commemorate Remembrance Day clearly as ex-forces. We've all got people that we've lost, but it's the creeping commercialization of it. And it's gone from, and you see it as well with the coronation. It's the militarization of things.
Yeah,
it's that aspect of just having the big boys with the tanks and guns, and I find that a lot with with the remembrance commemorations now as well. It's all about, they're sticking poppies on fucking tanks and missiles and things. You're like, no, you're missing the point.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right there. But that does actually um, play into what we suspect is happening anyway with
Mm.
the way the UK is heading. Uh, um, and we're going to be having a chat about that, so I won't put a spoiler out there yet. Yeah, so no, I didn't watch any of it. In fact, I was busy getting a radio show together.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so we were a house divided on Saturday. Uh, one half, my darling wife, she loves the pageantry and all that, and she was sitting watching it, and I was at the other end of the house raising rebellion.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Um, and it's like we said about the militarization of it, but it's almost the fetishization of it. It's almost like compulsory worship. And we found that with the comments from from the Met Police Commissioner, that any dissent will be harshly treated, will be dealt with, and that they're trying to bring these new laws in. 30p Lee Anderson talking about trying to ban protests, and it's just it's a scary time that the Tories seem to be riding roughshod over. Um, the things that we in this country used to be proud of, and I talk about the country, as much as I want independence, we're still part of the UK.
hmm,
They sort of pride themselves on democracy and freedom of speech, but suddenly it's only freedom of speech if it's speech you agree with.
yeah, I mean, I'm suitably old enough to remember some of the old hustings that used to happen during elections.
Mm.
And eggs being thrown at politicians or
Yeah,
wannabe
yeah,
politicians or rotten fruit
hmm,
was perfectly normal.
yeah.
And then was it John Prescott got eggs thrown at him? He turned around and clocked the guy, threw a beautiful
Uh-huh.
right hook at him.
It was yeah, sorry, the one they arrested the Just Stop Oil people, didn't they?
Yeah,
And and here's what gets me: it was the suspicion of a conspiracy to create a disturbance.
yeah. Well, that's
So
those new laws that were rushed in last week. Those laws shouldn't have taken place until
yeah,
I think it was 15th of June or 23rd of June,
yeah,
one
yeah,
of those 2 days. And then suddenly they're in on the Thursday. And that's another thing that really annoys me. These laws get royal assent. So Charles knew about
yeah,
these things.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
where's his advice to this government? Maybe he shouldn't be doing this. Maybe my subjects, because that's what we are, folks,
mhm,
whether we like it or not, we're not citizens, we're subjects. Um, Maybe he should have turned around and said, "No, my subjects will not get treated like that. I'm not signing it."
yeah.
Okay, a little bit of a crisis, but
It
that's
would be a constitutional crisis
yeah,
because the whole point of a constitutional monarchy is that the role of the monarch is just to rubber stamp these things.
yeah,
We know there was a whole civil war in England about that.
yes,
About the role of the monarch in
yeah,
lawmaking, but
yeah.
it was just
Casey,
ludicrous. And
yeah,
then they arrested the people who were part of the sort of night security, the people that look out for kind of homeless people in the streets,
yeah,
and keep people safe. They were arrested, and detained for sort of 6-7 hours as well.
yeah,
And these are the people that actually work in partnership with the Met Police.
yeah. There was just a total abandonment of what we would perceive as the democratic right for people to protest. The guys and girls from the Republic group, they had
Mhm.
been working, liaising with the police. Now, when you do that type of thing, you don't just turn up. There's a whole events book. It's called a Purple Book, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Right? It's an events book, and it lists what you need and the likelihood of this, the likelihood of that. Then you need X, Y, and Z. Yeah? And they had been liaising with the police, and the police had said to them, "Look, it's fine.
Mhm.
We know what you're going to be doing." And then suddenly they get stopped, and they didn't even have time to get the banners and placards, sorry, out of the cling film. they're still wrapped.
Yeah, definitely. You'll remember the old Greenham Common days
Yes.
where it was almost, and I know that certainly Maggie hated the Greenham Common protesters, but it was the simple fact was they were allowed to be there.
Yep.
There was nothing to stop them. Can you imagine them trying to set that up now with the current government? There'd be rubber hoses
Oh,
and batons being flung around, wouldn't there?
yeah. Well, I mean, I spent 4 days on the fence line down at Green Common. With the peace protesters on the other side, and sometimes on our side as well. They got
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. No, and yes, you're absolutely right. The police would have, I dread to think where this is going. I really do. I
mean,
absolutely dread to think.
and it's the whole point, this, a lot of change, a lot of constitutional change, especially in political change, has happened through protest.
Mm.
The unions, for one, that was organised protest. The suffragette movement.
Yeah. Well, they were blowing up post boxes in people's houses.
Yeah. They were all, violently opposed to the government today, and they did that by protest.
Yeah.
And as much as it disrupts people's day, and that was the big thing, it's all about Lee Anderson doesn't want to be heckled as he walks into Westminster. Well, stop being a fascist asshole, mate, and maybe, just maybe, people won't heckle you.
Yeah, walking into Westminster or having a party or watching someone in a golden coach is not protected under the Human Rights Convention of 1950. The right to protest is freedom of speech, as Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Yeah. So there's an absolute huge difference. And I've heard various cabinet ministers coming out with this, yes, you would spoil people's parties but because of this. Well, tough. The right to party, no matter what the record said, the right to party has not been protected under any mandates.
Yeah, and the truth is, the whole point of free speech is not about. It's about government not policing what you say. Don't get me wrong. Free speech doesn't mean free from consequences.
No.
So if you turn up and you protest and you disrupt traffic and you make a public nuisance of yourself, then yeah, you expect you've got to expect to get arrested.
Yes.
What shouldn't happen is that peaceful protests are just banned just in case.
Yeah.
They might turn into something else, and that's ludicrous. And the truth is, you seen the whole thing in the States when they were the white supremacists were walking with the tiki torches and all that. Police stood idly by, and then as soon as the Black Lives Matter movement got a bit vocal, suddenly the cops are coming in, heavy-handed. It's protecting free speech of those you agree with, which is what government does.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely
particularly this one.
Yeah. And I think that brings us on nicely onto our next topic, mate, which is
creeping fascism.
Creeping fascism. So we spoke about this previously, didn't we? So this particular list here, for those of you that can't see it, it talks about the signs of fascism. Now this poster, which is what it is, this comes from the Washington Holocaust Memorial. So it's not something that I or Cliff or anyone else has haphazardly thrown together. It talks about the signs of fascism, and I think if you read through this, you can see the comparisons to the current state of the Westminster government. So that powerful and continuing nationalism, that's that whole Brexit, Union Jack waving, exceptionalism that they do, isn't it, Cliff?
Yeah. Everything. We're going to make Britain great again. We are a major player. Every time Boris Johnson opened his mouth, he came out with something along that lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Identification of enemies and scapegoats. Well, there we go. There's the immigrants and the the lefty lawyers and the the do-gooders.
Yeah.
These are all the enemies.
Us lot.
Supremacy of the military. Again, a bit of a double-edged sword here because the military's been decimated under successive governments. But
Yeah.
I think you only have to look at, as I said before, about the coronation and about Remembrance Day, where it's that militarization is really glorified.
Yeah. Did you catch Dammit? The old general.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. He came out with a statement today about or late last night, early this morning. He came out with a statement that Rwanda is not a good idea. Sending he turned around and says that country is still living under the shadow of the genocide.
yeah.
He says so. This is a general not noted for his left-wing leanings. Yeah, and he's turning around to the government and saying this is a bad idea. So
yeah. Rampant sexism. I'm not sure the government can be accused of that. Really, maybe. I don't see a lot of it. There's lots of gender diversity in the cabinet. Having said that, maybe the fact that they're becoming less tolerant of gender diversity.
Yeah.
Maybe that's particularly UK thing. And I'm always tempted to say it's because all these public school boys have probably dabbled with a little bit of gender and sexual fluidity during their times. I allegedly, I should say, controlled mass media.
Absolutely.
Whether it's controlled or the fact that the papers are just very comfortable getting in bed with the Tories. Your Mail, your Express, all these people.
BBC.
Obsession with national security again. The immigrants. We have to watch out for the bogeyman under the bed.
Yeah.
Religion and government intertwined. Do we have that, Cliff? Do you think?
Oh yes, it's never been untwined. Yeah, we have that. Was it the bishops, the Church of England bishops sitting in the Lords?
Yes, the Lord's spiritual.
Yes.
The 23 Church of England bishops which sit in the House of Lords.
Yeah.
And have a say on the lawmaking.
Yeah. And they do. They fought tooth and nail when the homosexuality laws were getting changed. They didn't want that to happen. So they've had to bite the bullet on that one. So we definitely have the religion and government intertwining.
Yeah. Corporate power being protected.
Without a shadow of doubt.
That's it. It's I don't think you need to go anymore. They've all got their noses in the trough, giving each other private contracts. Labour power suppressed. We've already seen that. They're trying to bring in anti-strike laws and to stop the doctors and the nurses and all the people kind of striking and the train workers.
Well, that's it. In the same week where they're quite happy to spend anywhere between 100 million and 250 million pound on that pageant in London on Saturday that was the same week where they were threatening to take the nurses to court.
Yeah.
What kind of sycophant comes up with ideological thoughts like that? Yeah, so definitely suppressed.
Definitely disdain for intellectuals and the arts. Oh yeah, there we go. That's your lefty lawyers, your left-wing professors and academics, the liberal elite who speak out. Definitely obsession with crime and punishment. What? Not the Tories, not the Tories who just want to lock people up.
Well, that's it. That's all they ever want to do. They don't want to look at the problem. I mean, their answer to drug addiction is lock someone up.
Yeah,
it's not what's causing the drug addiction. Why has this person drifted into an area that he or she has lost all hope, and sees solace by getting hammered out their skull on chemicals?
And there's never any focus on rehabilitation either. It's lock them up and throw away the key.
Yeah.
And as we know, that disproportionately affects people from the poorer backgrounds who are more likely to be drawn into kind of low level crime, which And if you do it, if you chuck someone in prison for shoplifting, then they come out and they just progress to housebreaking because they learn that in prison.
Yeah.
Okay. Rampant cronyism and corruption. Oh, I nearly swore there.
Well done, Russ. Good recovery.
I think, oh, Mike, could anyone argue the opposite? Could anyone argue that this government has not lined their own nests?
Where's the investigations, though? Why are the police not ripping their homes apart? Why are they not going
No,
in and going into the sheds and lifting
I,
wheelbarrows and stuff?
no. But you see it as well. Boris nominating all his mates to the House of Lords.
Yep.
Liz Truss did the same.
Yes. 49 days she was in, and she got to promote 12 people.
And loans here and bungs here. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Well,
And then
yeah. If you want to find out the true depth of what's happened, if you go onto the Office of National Statistics and read their report about the pandemic, COVID pandemic, which has now been declassified, by the way. It got declassified by the World Health Organization, I believe, on Friday. So it's no longer pandemic. But if you go onto that Office of National Statistics, have a look and see how much exposure the taxpayer in the UK has left with because of all the money that's disappeared.
yeah,
And it's going to have to get repaid.
yeah. And the final one on the list, fraudulent elections. Before we get into that, I'd point out there's 14 definitions on here. I would confidently say that the current Tory party score, and I'm being generous here, 12 out of 14.
Yes, yeah, military and the second one being probably a bit sugary peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Russ. I hate agreeing with you because it makes us sound as though we're speaking from the same handshake, which we don't often do.
No, definitely. So fraudulent elections. So the aspect of, we're not talking about stuffing the ballot box, although we may be. And I'd point out that there has just been, obviously, the local elections in England, where the Tories got an absolute drubbing, losing something like 1,000 seats across the country of England, I should say. But this was the election where it was the first time they brought in the voter ID laws.
Yeah,
You knew about that, didn't you?
yeah, and it's annoying because the accepted ID your traditional Tory voter will have
Yeah,
at a drop of a hat. I mean, the Oyster card for a senior citizen
yeah.
is acceptable ID, but the one for the 18 to 24 or 25-year-old is not. How did that happen?
Well,
Yeah,
it's straight out of the Republican playbook, mate, isn't it? In America,
yeah,
the truth is, the people that traditionally wouldn't have such an ID are the people from the disenfranchised, the poor, the impoverished backgrounds.
yep.
And the idea that they would have, such as an Oyster card, which kind of you get, or the Young Scot card, or whatever it is that you call it these days, would have been given to them. So excluding that means that you're excluding people who are not going to vote for your party. And the truth is, voter fraud has never been a major issue in the UK. I think there was something like 3 or 4 occasions on the last election.
In 2019, there was
Yeah,
550 reported cases, of which 3 ended up in
yeah,
people getting charged,
yeah,
and 2 with a police caution.
yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
so so, so 5 out of what, 30 million?
yeah,
Is that really an excuse to bring in by the back door, effectively,
yeah.
a national ID card?
Well, everything they've done, everything this government has done, has been creeping. It's by it's by stealth or it's by creeping, and because the newspapers,
Yeah,
yeah, are so on side, they're not these things are not getting highlighted.
yeah,
Yeah, so the voter ID is an absolute disaster, folks. We're going to have it at the next general election. So you can get an accepted form of ID from government website.
Mhm.
But every other country that has voter ID, as far as I know, issues free
Yeah.
voter IDs. Australia, for
Yeah.
example.
Well,
So, guys,
well, they have compulsory voting in Australia, don't
yeah,
they? You can't
yeah,
not vote.
that's it. Yep.
Um,
Which has its merits.
yeah, definitely. Evelyn's asking the question: how many voters do not get to vote? I think that's a really good question. We don't know.
Yep.
We don't know because no one was taking that count. From what I hear, people were being turned away outside of the voting places to get ID, which means that going in and being marked as a turned away wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Um,
I am Evelyn. I am desperately trying to find some information on that, but my ability to work the internet is like my ability to fix a car. pretty limited. But I will try. If there's answers out there, Evelyn, we'll get them on the next show in a month's time. That is it. That's a guarantee.
on the plus side, the Tories got humped, lost 1,000 seats.
Yeah.
How much more would they have lost by if everyone had been able to vote?
Yeah. And there's a good point from Hashbury. The Electoral Commission is supposed to be investigating. All right.
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
we'll see.
I'll keep an eye on that one then.
Or maybe
Yeah.
check who runs the Electoral Commission first.
yeah. So is that. Have you noticed what time it is, buddy?
It is, mate. It's we've got about 3-4 minutes left of
Yeah.
our inane waffle.
Yeah. See, it's amazing what happens when we have a script. Right. So opinion polls.
Yes, that was the final one. So the recent opinion poll, wasn't it? I think you raised this.
Yeah.
It showed that the SNP were going to lose quite a substantial amount of seats at the next.
They were going to win
At the next
in the
general
first
election.
past the post section, but then in the list vote they were going to Labour were going to take that one, and then two rather smart individuals on social media did some digging about this company that produced the poll and discovered all is not what it seems. And you've got some back history on them, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen that. They did one because I did a bit of digging as well and discovered that these were the people. So it was last year when the polling came out showing that people were pissed off about the Downing Street parties. Boris was out. So the polling company, and I can't remember their name. Maybe you've got it written down. Doesn't matter. But they produced an opinion poll saying that actually their opinion poll showed that the people were just getting bored of hearing about it. So it was very pro Tory, very pro the opposite of everyone else. And I read someone that said that they're the Daily Mail's favourite polling company. So I think that tells you all you need to know about that particular polling organisation and their reputation.
It was Redfield and Wilton Strategies.
There you go.
I did have it written down.
Yeah.
Blazing organisation.
It would not. I've not done the digging, but it would not surprise me if we found quite a few Tory donors on the board of that particular.
There's only one
company.
person on it, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know.
One officer named.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very iffy, questionable. Yeah. I think it's a polite way of saying it.
And just before we finish up, mate, I'd point out that there was a bit of a march going on Saturday, wasn't there?
Yes,
which apparently had a phenomenal turnout.
Yes, 20.
Unfortunately, both Cliff and I were working, so we couldn't attend. But what a phenomenal turnout that was.
Yeah, 20,000 people decided that marching for Scottish independence was far more important than sitting watching the propaganda.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just find that each and every single person that took part in that march, huge pat on the back, absolute hats off.
And I think for me, it was a case of given that I've not had a lot of free time outside of work and everything else to kind of lift my head up. So there's been maybe a creeping indoctrination from the media that perhaps the Yes movement has been waning a little bit, maybe not as popular and then you see that march on Saturday, and you think, "Oh my God, we have not gone anywhere."
Yeah, and
So yeah,
and that is because of the propaganda. We are, we
yeah,
have one um, paper that's vaguely on side with
mm,
us, and everybody else is against us.
it is, and I'd like to thank each and every person that
Yeah,
attended that march on Saturday. Brilliant. Of course, it would go underreported because, well, it's the same day as the coronation, so you're not going to get the column in. She's not that you would anyway.
yeah,
Yeah, phenomenal.
yeah,
We're still here. We're still fighting rhetorically.
yeah.
We're not
And,
punching
and
anyone.
we are still moving forward.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So thank you. Unfortunately, we are at a time, mate. Oh
One of
my
these
God,
days we'll get bang on 30 minutes and be wound up by then.
did we
Just not this week.
did we get through all the script?
Yep. And we did have a script.
Well, you did. Uh, Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's always a pleasure spending time with you. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the questions. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Or if you're watching this on YouTube on Catchup, enjoy the rest of your day or whatever day it is. And we look forward to seeing you again on the second Monday of the month next month.
Yep. Guys, girls, thanks very much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to work with young Russ here, having a natter like this. And it's huge, just pride oozes at every
Mm.
pore when I see when people are taking time out to listen to what we've got to say. So let's keep positive. As Ross mentioned there, we aren't going anywhere. We haven't gone anywhere. Because our future is very, very bright. Independence is right.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care, everyone. And not God save the king. Long live independence.
Yes, absolutely. Take
Okay.
care, folks.
Take care. Bye for now. Bye.
Right.